Warning, this show contains childish adult content and is intended for immature, mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The views spoken are ours and ours alone, not those of any other bugger. If you're easily offended, we strongly suggest finding another podcast. Everybody neat and pretty, then on with the show.
Hello and welcome to DisAfterDark, episode 8, I believe, of this series. I am Nick.
And I'm Paul. Not the usual Paul.
One of the usual Pauls.
Yeah, but not the one that usually goes first.
I like how we finished each other's
sentences.
No, sandwiches. And
sandwiches.
Sandwiches. Cool sandwiches, like the Earl sandwich. And we were without General Paul tonight, who is not here. He's previously indisposed.
Yeah,
let's say that.
He's got a lot on right now.
Yeah,
busy boy.
He is a busy boy, and I believe Mr. Lucas is working. So
that's not George though.
No,
that's Craig, isn't it?
That is not that one.
George doesn't drive trains anymore.
Does he not? Should do.
No.
But we're not alone. We do have somebody else that's with us. So, mystery guest, please reveal yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris, and I'm from TDR Explorer, and I'm joining you guys tonight, this morning, however you want to call it. It's 6 a.m. here right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, for those that are not familiar with the podcast, your podcast is a little bit different to most Disney podcasts. Would you like to explain why?
Yeah, our podcast is TDR Now, and it's me and my friend Patricia. And since we're both based in Tokyo, we talk about Tokyo Disney Resort because there's not a lot of English information out there. So we decided to bring English information to all the Disney fans out there.
Indeed. I mean, for many people, it is the park of fantasy. Not Fantasyland, of course, but it's the Holy Grail. I think most Disney fans, Disney theme park fans at least, would love to go to Tokyo to visit those parks, the two beautiful parks that you have out there. And like you say, there's not really a lot of information with an English slant. It's normally Japanese, of course. And so, for that reason, your podcast really stands out. I remember when we tried to have an angle, when we used to have an angle back in the day, but, even we're a little bit like all the others, I suppose. But I think it's really interesting that you've done this. And I didn't actually realise that your co-host was based in Tokyo with you, because I have actually listened to your show, and I wasn't too sure if she was with you there or she was based in the States. So she's in Tokyo as well.
Yeah, she is. So we're very authentic.
Very much so.
Yeah. She's originally from the US, and I'm originally from Canada. So.
And how long have you been working in Tokyo, Chris?
I've been here just over 2 years now.
Wow.
Which is, it seems like a long time.
And were you a big Disney fan before you went to Tokyo?
Yeah, I was. I've been to all the parks so far except for Hong Kong, and I know Hong Kong is just one plane ride away. I still haven't gone over there yet.
Well, amazingly, that's one of the parks that some of us had been to. Not the two people you're speaking to, of course, but the other Paul has actually been to Hong Kong Disneyland. But before we talk about any further, this is what happens when you let the inmates run the asylum. We've kind of skipped a few things over. So
one important thing in particular,
a very much important thing, because I'm staring right in front of my my drink, and that is what are we drinking? So, guys, what are we drinking?
Okay, watch out. Okay, watch out for any flying arrows, because I've got a can of Strongbow dark fruit here. There we go. Ow, just missed. It's okay.
Yeah.
Phew.
Very deadly. Very nice. Chris, what are you drinking?
Well, seeing as it's 6 a.m. and I have to go to work in a little bit.
Suntory.
Yeah. I wish. No, I'm just having boring old coffee. So sorry, guys.
No, not at all. I mean,
Right.
Really, if we were talking to you that time of the morning, I'd imagine we would probably be on the softer stuff as well. I actually tried to find some Japanese beer in my local beer dispensary and failed. Can you believe that? I was quite shocked. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't even find anything Oriental. I couldn't even find like Tiger beer. But this took my fancy, and it's from Hogsback, and it's called Montezuma's Chocolate Lager. And I thought I'd give that a go. So I'll just hang on.
Two main food groups there. What's that like, then, Nick?
Yeah, there is a bit of a chocolatey twang actually. It's interesting. Yeah, it's quite sweet. It's quite sweet. 4.5%, but yeah, not bad. So I'd give it a go. I can't say I heartily recommend it, but if you're after something a bit different, then do that. And if you've got any suggestions of drink that we should be drinking, or want to complain about any of the stereotypical Japanese things I'm about to say, such as konnichiwa and arigato, Mr. Roboto, because that's the only Japanese I know, you can contact us via our website at www.DisAfterDark.com, or you can email your complaints at podcast@DisAfterDark.com.
Or you can find us on Twitter at DisAfterDark, and we're also on Facebook.com/DisAfterDark.
And Chris, we normally do plugs a bit later on, but I think we should really try and spread the word as much as possible about your work. So where can people find you?
They can find us on our website at TDRExplorer.com, and our podcast TDR Now is on iTunes and Stitcher, and we're also on Twitter, twitter.com/TDR Explorer, and also on Facebook, facebook.com/TDR Explorer.
Wow, there you go. So there's no chance you're missing it, like we pretty much had. It's been running a while now as well, hasn't it? I noticed you've done not quite as many shows as we've done. But you've done quite a lot of shows. How long have you been running the podcast now?
We've been doing it just over a year. We started it in September 2014, so that's when we started it.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. But no, I mean, I said I listened to your latest show, and I think just being able to discuss the park like that, and one of the things that you were talking about was the lottery, which I had no idea about as a concept, but the fact that there's now an app available to it, and it's all in Japanese. Obviously, being out there, you're kind of accustomed to stuff a bit more. But would you say there's still quite a lot of emphasis on anything to do with Tokyo Disney being for that market and not really being for English speakers?
Yeah, there's still a really big focus on just the Japanese guests. Just because I read a stat somewhere, don't quote me on this, something like 93% of the guests are locals. So there's a lot of marketing that goes towards them. But they are getting better with their English website. I kind of keep an eye on it to see what they're updating on there, just so I can direct people to that if I need to. And they started to add more English information. Even though it's pretty general, it's still better than nothing, I have to say.
Yeah.
And
it makes, the thing is, it does make sense, obviously. I think Disneyland Paris is a little bit different in the fact that, the fact that it's the park, seen as the park for Europe, that it's fairly bilingual in terms of content for the website and even the park itself. Whilst Tokyo, it's because of where it is, doesn't quite have the same footprint of culture that some of the other parks do. So I do understand why they wouldn't. And if that stat is anywhere near accurate of 93%, then, you can certainly understand why.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of money to be made with the locals here.
Yeah, well, it's the home of Duffy the Bear and Shelley May.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I love Duffy, and I know a lot of people don't, but I love Duffy.
Yeah, we're very famous for not. But at the same time, we can. Let's be open. At the same time, I like Vinylmation, and not many other people do. So, horses for courses. But yeah, it's definitely something that's not really, succeeded elsewhere. What do you think has made Duffy and Shelley May so popular there, and it not really reach the same kind of popularity elsewhere?
I would say for here, Japanese people love things that are cute, and Duffy and Shelley May are definitely cute. So they kind of hit the right note with that one. And when they brought Duffy to the park, they gave him a backstory, and he fit really well into Tokyo Disney Sea. So he almost has his own land per se.
Wow! Okay.
And they marketed him really well here, and it took off. And also, Japanese guests love limited edition items, so giving Duffy different costumes every season. There's always a lineup, and they usually sell out of stuff. So it just works here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. And I was gonna say, and then I kind of watched when it was released in the U.S., and it just kind of seemed like they just kind of threw him in there and said, "Here he is," and just expected people to love him, and people just kind of thought, "What is this? What are we doing with him?" kind of thing. So I think that's why it didn't really take off in the U.S. parks, and I don't know too much about Paris, how popular it is over there.
Paris is a bit strange, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
I was out in Disney World when they launched Duffy, and Duffy came with a little cardboard booklet that was attached to him that explained the backstory. I mean, I'm guessing the backstory is the same, that Mickey bought Duffy. Also, Minnie bought Mickey Duffy, so when he went travelling, they could take pictures and stuff. So the backstory was there, but I don't know. I think people were just a bit cynical about it being a marketing ploy, which, when you think about it, really, it is unusual, because most things were marketing ploy and are very successful, but for some reason, just didn't really catch fire. Duffy in Paris, I wouldn't say he was more popular there compared to America, because it's a smaller market, but he's done okay.
I think Chris is right, though. I think it did seem like, they didn't really build the backstory and build any kind of connection to Duffy. It just seemed like, here it is, it's a license to print money with all the different costumes, almost like a Build-A-Bear rip-off, Disney style.
I think especially because in the UK, I don't know if it happened anywhere else, but in the UK, Duffy made its way to Disney stores, didn't it? And it was just thrown in there. Like one day there was some space for some other merchandise, and then the next day there was this wall of Duffys with clothing, and there was no kind of thing at all. And yeah, if you were quite unaware of it, you would just think, well, this is just a Build-A-Bear workshop rip-off, who also do Disney costumes. So it seemed like a bit of a false thing to kind of go for. Just a bit bizarre. But they're talking about the cute things. I mean, one thing that has done very well outside of Japan, whilst I believe equally being big in Japan, is Tsum Tsums.
Oh yes, the Tsum Tsums. Those things are everywhere. And actually, I have some Chippendales sitting right in front of my TV.
I'm looking at two right now, right in front of me. My daughter just came back from London, and she got a Jiminy Cricket and Jiminy Cricket Tsum Tsum, and also a Frozen one as well.
Yeah, we've got. We bought some for. I say we bought some for the kids. We did really, but it's kind of expanded a bit more. Because my daughter was born when Frozen came out, we bought her the Frozen ones when they appeared. And my son was born when Big Hero 6 was released, so we bought him the set of Big Hero 6 ones. But I then managed to buy the Inside Out ones on the pretense that I'd enjoy the film, and the Night Before Christmas ones because I like that film. And then all of a sudden you've got a fair amount of Simpsons. I think maybe with that it might be the price point. I think they're a very reasonable gift, aren't they?
They're
relatively cheap
in Japan. Yeah.
£5 here, aren't they?
It's either it's like £4.99. Yeah, it's less than £5 for one, definitely.
Yeah.
And what's interesting as well, Chris, is that, and again, I don't think it's the same in Japan. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you can buy them in Disney parks, and we also get them in Disney stores, which I do know you do in Japan. But they also sell them at various other retailers. So in the UK, for example, we have two manufacturers. We have Disney Store themselves that have a company make them, and we also have a company called Poshpos who have the license to make Tsum Tsums. So you can actually buy them in lots of other retail shops in the UK. And they obviously the manufactured slightly differently, and they are one is a bit plumper than the other for some strange reason. So one looks at it as a bit fatter than the other Tsum Tsums. But I think it's interesting that that they obviously banked on the success that much that they've actually sold them to be not just a Disney Store product, but to also let other retailers sell them.
That's very interesting. That's something I did not know at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There you go.
So
Lots of interesting information coming out tonight.
Could these be the new Vinomations, Nick? Are they going to take over your Vinylmation collection?
Actually, I think they're going to be much bigger than Vinylmation. In fact, you could already argue that they are bigger than Vinylmation, because when they released the new set, they sell out very quickly. I remember speaking to a friend who works at Digital in London, and when they first, what they do, they have a Tsum Tsum Tuesday, which is where they release a new series of Tsum Tsums each month, the first Tuesday of every month. And for the first sets they had beginning of the year, they only got in about, I think it was something stupid like about 20 sets or something like that. And they expanded it on each release the times that by 4. So now, actually, if you didn't get them on the first day of release, you might not get a whole set. But now, if you go into a Disney store, you might be able to get a full set 2 or 3 weeks down the line because they've started to make more of them. But I think the price point helps. I think the fact that you know what you're getting as well, because whilst a lot of people liked that about Vinylmation, at the same time, that was also something that people hated, was paying, £8, £10, £12 for a box, and you might not get the toy that you want. Yeah. So I think Tsum Tsum, even though they haven't got legs, will actually have longer legs than Vinylmation in terms of lasting as a craze, really. I mean, Chris, is Vinylmation completely dead in Japan now?
Yeah, when I first got here, they had a little bit of Vinylmation still. Like, they had ones for the special events. They had maybe 1 or 2 that were themed to the event. And then after that, they just disappeared. There are no more here.
Yeah.
They just didn't take off here.
No, it's quite
and what
strange.
What about
vinyl
pins,
toys quite big.
Yeah.
Sorry,
what about pins, Chris? Have they still got pins there, or are they gone also?
No, they still have pins here. They're not as popular as the US parks, but They do release limited pins for the seasonal merchandise, so I know those are very popular. And then they have ones that are for the attractions and Disney princesses and stuff like that. They usually just have like one little wall full of pins, and that's about it.
Okay. Go back to when you first went to Tokyo. Obviously, you said you were a Disney fan already, and had been to, at that point, you'd been to most of the other parks, apart from Tokyo, when you said Hong Kong.
Yeah. I went to Disney World for the first time in 2010, and Disneyland, I think the same year.
Yeah.
And then went to Disneyland Paris in 2012.
Yeah. And when you first went to Tokyo, then what did you really notice there? What were some of the things that you thought, wow, that's different, or that's something that people would see as a difference to the other parks?
How busy it is. That's the first thing I noticed.
Yeah.
It's always busy. Another thing would be, for a lot of the parades and shows, people have to sit for them, which is really nice, actually.
Yeah.
So for a lot of the parades in Disneyland, if you're along the parade route, you're supposed to sit the entire time. So people have like these little picnic mats to sit down on. They'll have like little cushions and stuff. It's almost like a little picnic in a way, while people are watching the show. So that was very different for me, which I now fully embrace. I bring my little plastic sheet with me. I sit down, I set up, I talk with my friends, we grab something to eat. It's like this, a couple hour endeavor just to watch a show.
To be fair, that's how most people have to queue for parades anyway. But at least it seems a lot more social than what we normally have to put up with.
Yeah, and we don't have people kind of cutting in front of you last minute when the parade starts and stuff like that. People are very mindful of people around them, which is really nice. So, if you've been there for 2 hours waiting, you're not going to have someone swoop in as soon as the parade starts to stand in front of you, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It sounds the ideal place for Canadians, to be honest, because everyone sounds polite.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's different from Paris.
Paris was quite a shocker for me when I first went.
Yeah.
Culturally, it was very different. So,
in terms of queuing and cutting in and things like that, yeah.
As for, let me think, for other stuff that's different, I'd have to say the merchandise is very different. It's very character-based. So there's tons of merchandise that revolves around all the characters. So Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Chip and Dale, and even some of the more obscure characters like Marie. She has a lot of stuff that people just love here. And then obviously Duffy, Shelly Mae, and now Gelatoni. One thing that a lot of people, ask me when they come, saying like, can I buy a T-shirt that just says Tokyo Disney Sea or Tokyo Disney Resort? And I have to tell them, you usually can't. Like sometimes they have it, but usually not really. It's just something a lot of the guests here just don't buy. Like I don't really know why, because we have really outrageously looking T-shirts here that have these weird patterns and everything that everyone buys together as a group to wear, and nowhere on it does it say Tokyo Disney Resort, but people know that it's from Tokyo Disney Resort. So that's one of the bigger things that I noticed, and also a lot of people that come over here notice as well.
Wow, that sounds different. And the shows are all in Japanese. There's no English version.
A lot of the singing is in English because it's very simple lyrics. But if there's a story happening, it's always in Japanese.
Right.
Unless there's a couple instances where stuff will be in English, but it's kind of sporadic. It's not really consistent.
Yeah. And what about the characters, like the face characters, like Cinderella or Prince Charming or somebody like that? Would that be a Japanese person, or would that be somebody from a different country? How do they portray the face characters?
All the face characters are Westerners. So,
Right.
Cinderella's going to be a blonde girl from, a Western country.
Yeah.
There's a couple times I've noticed, though, that some of the face characters are Japanese, but
Mhm.
that might just be because, they're short people or, whatever reason. But for the
Yeah.
most part, it's Westerners that are playing these parts. And for all the times I've interacted with them, I think they're told to only speak in English. Because I
Right.
never hear them speak Japanese, even with, like, when they're interacting with Japanese guests. Like, I'll watch them sometimes just to see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always speaking English. Like, maybe there's a few times they'll say hello, like konnichiwa or something like that, but for the most part it's all in English, which is really nice because it kind of keeps that character, because
Yeah.
they speak English. So, why would they speak Japanese? It just seems kind of odd if they did.
Yeah, sure.
So what actually brought you out to Tokyo?
Well, there's a number of things. Well, first, I lived here before as an exchange student over 10 years ago.
Cool.
So, yeah, I was here. I did a 6-month exchange way up north in like a very rural part of Japan, and I fell in love with it. I loved the culture, and I made a lot of friends here as well. So it was, I had a really good time. And when I went back to Canada, I always said, I always want to come back to Japan at some point. And then in 2013, I decided to come here on a working holiday visa. And my original plan was to stay here for just a year, just, traveling around, experiencing everything. So I came here and I ended up finding a permanent job, and they wanted to keep me. So I said, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started going to the parks and everything. And here we are 2 years later.
That's good. That's good, though. That's good. And yeah, I mean, I think it makes a real difference to speak to someone that's been that's that close to the past. Because I mean, we've spoken to people before that have been to Tokyo Disney, but not somebody who is in the thick of it, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a kind of trip report. Whilst I suppose with you, I don't know how frequently you're able to get to the park, but you're obviously able to get there more frequently than someone that's been there once in their lives for about a week.
Yeah, I go about every 2 weeks is when I go. It's just, for me, it's about just over an hour and a half away by train. So it gets a little tiring if I'm going after work or something like that. So usually I go on the weekends or holidays.
And how accessible is it by train? Is there like a station at the park, or?
Yeah, there is a train station called Maihama, and that's where the resort is located. And fun fact, Tokyo Disney Resort's technically not in Tokyo. It's actually in the next prefecture over, which is kind of, that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize. That it's actually not in Tokyo, but they still call it Tokyo Disney Resort.
I suppose really.
But yeah, to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I was gonna say to get there is pretty easy. Like if you're coming in from the airport, there's buses that go directly to the resort, so that's no issue. If you're staying in Tokyo, the trains are really easy to figure out because there's English everywhere, so it's really not that bad. It can be a little overwhelming because you actually do have to change at Tokyo Station, which is one of the busier stations in the city. And it's it's almost like a maze, and you kind of have to follow the signs that say Tokyo Disneyland on it. So that could be a little overwhelming for people. I've had friends come over and they said they, had to change to the train there, and they said they just got overwhelmed and didn't know where to go and everything. But once they figured it out, everything was okay. But I think the first time going there is a little stressful because it's really busy.
Yeah. And it's somebody, I mean, it's definitely one on the bucket list. Would love to come to Tokyo. If you were coming, you said it's busy all the time, but if you were coming from somewhere like the UK, is there a better time of the year to visit? Are there, whether it be crowds or weather or events? What would you recommend there, Chris?
If you want decent weather, I would say in May and just after Golden Week, which is one of the biggest holidays in Japan, and essentially everyone in Japan is on holiday. So the resort is ridiculously busy. It's one of the busiest times of the year. But if you go just after Golden Week, it's nice and quiet because everyone's already gone. They're going back to school, going back to work. So the resort is kind of in a lull at that point. And also, you can come just before Golden Week as well in mid-April. And that's usually when the cherry blossoms are blooming as well. And those are really pretty to see.
Yeah.
So I would say that's kind of like the best time if you want to get like nice weather. The only event that's going on would be Easter, because Easter runs from April until the end of June.
Wow.
Which is really strange, but but if you don't mind cold weather, coming just after New Year's is a good time as well. Just because New Year's is the biggest holiday in Japan. So the parks are ridiculously busy, and especially with their New Year's party and everything. And then after that, again, everyone just goes back to school, goes back to work. So the parks are pretty quiet.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, it's depending on how tolerant you are of cold, it does get a little chilly. And since the parks are right in Tokyo Bay, it gets really windy, especially in the evenings. So it can be not very pleasant.
Right. What sort of temperatures does it get down to?
In the evenings, it can get down to like anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So
right.
it rarely gets below freezing, but it does sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's also really
like
humid here too.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few cold Christmases at Disneyland Paris, so that doesn't sound too bad.
No. I think the thing is you're prepared. I mean, we were discussing this last night, actually. We're about to get the kids some thermal undergarments for when we go to Disneyland Paris in at the end of January, because you're never quite sure. And it's better to have layers like that to have underneath your clothing, because if you get too hot, then you can take your coat off. But yeah, there's nothing worse than it being the other way around, where you just don't have enough clothing to keep you warm. And we've learned that the hard way in Disneyland Paris as well. So, yeah. So recently in Japan, you had something that we've never had in Europe, and probably never will have in Europe, but our friends in America do, and that's D23. So, I mean, we normally get quite a lot of reports about D23 in the US. And to be honest, the only news I saw about D23 in Japan was, going back to previous conversation, Tsum Tsums. And the limited Tsum Tsums they had released for the event. But was there anything exciting that came out of the D23 Expo?
It wasn't as exciting as we hoped. We were hoping for more information on the expansions that are happening at both the parks, but unfortunately they didn't really release anything. Probably the biggest reveal was all their plans for the 15th anniversary of Tokyo Disney Sea. There they revealed the theme song and the costumes that the characters are going to be wearing, and they did a full presentation on explaining the whole theme, which is crystals for the year. So to me, that was the biggest thing. And there was other little things here and there, but I didn't really pay much attention to them. It was mainly just that I paid attention to, because when we go to D23, first of all, we have to win a lottery to be able to buy tickets.
Wow.
And they have different tiered tickets, and a bunch of us tried for one of the higher tier tickets so we can go for all 3 days and go to a bunch of the presentations. Unfortunately, all of us lost. So then we tried for the next ticket down, which was a 1-day ticket and going to one presentation. Luckily, I was the one that won, so I was able to buy tickets for everyone. So I bought 4 tickets and we all got to go. And thankfully, the presentation we got to see was the one for Tokyo Disney Sea, which was really nice. And it was complete fanfare, what that whole thing was. Just to kind of explain what it was at the Maihama Amphitheater, which is basically that theater was made for a Cirque du Soleil show, which is no longer playing. So the COO of the Oriental Land Company was there, and he was explaining, things that are happening with the resort, just kind of, businessy kind of things. And then all of a sudden, they start explaining the 50th anniversary for Tokyo Disney Sea, and they kind of do this video montage, just kind of showing when Disney Sea was being built, just showing all the construction and the first time they turned on all the water for like the Mediterranean harbor and all that stuff, which was really cool. And then Mickey and Minnie come out on stage, and they're wearing their original costumes that they wore for the opening of the resort, or sorry, of the park. And as soon as Mickey and Minnie came out, the entire theater was cheering and clapping. It was almost like, these really famous people came on stage. It was really kind of a surreal experience, just with all the applause that everyone gave, which is really neat.
You do realise that Mickey and Minnie are really famous people, yeah?
Yeah, well, not really people, but it was
creatures,
like like these rock star or something came on stage. It was just it was just a weird feeling to kind of describe, just the whole energy in the theater. And then after that, it was like a 45-minute stage show, basically. They just explained the crystals for Tokyo Disney Sea, and just how they kind of play a part in the theming. And essentially all the main characters, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, they all have these crystals that have different meanings, like friendship, energy, yada, yada, yada. And when they all mix together, they make this clear crystal, which is Mickey's, and it represents everyone's wishes coming true. And throughout the entire presentation, they were doing throwbacks to old shows at Disney Sea that have ended or are ending. So there was a lot of fanfare there. A lot of people were, cheering and freaking out because these shows were being performed again, because a lot of people thought they would never see it again.
Right.
So that was really neat to see. Like, there was one of the more popular ones that ended last year was the Legend of Mythica, which to me was one of the best Disney outdoor shows ever, and they ended it last year. So it was really nice to see the costumes again and some of the performances and hearing the music and stuff. So yeah, that was the presentation for Tokyo Disney Sea.
It sounds a little bit like
other stuff.
Sorry, I was going to say, it sounds a little bit like the Infinity Gauntlet on the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Not talking about the shows, Chris. I mean, in the Disneyland park, do they have wishes in the park? Do they have nighttime shows equivalent to some of the US parks?
We have Once Upon a Time in Tokyo Disneyland, which is a projection show on Cinderella Castle. There's a little bit of pyro, but it's nowhere near like what Wishes is. And to be quite honest, our fireworks here are not very good. I think mainly because, number one, we're right in the city, so I think there's some bylaws and stuff like that that prevents us from doing a lot of stuff. And also because of the weather, it's really windy a lot of the time, so they end up having to cancel the one fireworks show that we do have quite a bit, or altering it. So I think for them it's not worth doing. And then over at Disney Sea, our nighttime show is Fantasmic, and And sometimes they have a seasonal show as well. For Christmas, we have Christmas Wishes, which is a short little nighttime show.
Yeah. Okay. And Phantasmic, is that a similar storyline to Phantasmic in the States? Or
Yeah, it is.
in California, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I definitely wish they'd bring to the European parts. Well, I don't know how they could, I suppose, but still, I think Fantastic is still such a great show that it's missed. I think definitely.
Yeah.
So, what would you out of the two parks? What would you say are your favourite attractions in each one?
Okay. So for Tokyo Disneyland, I'd have to say my absolute favorite would have to be Pooh's Honey Hunt, which is unique to Tokyo Disneyland. That's a fun ride. My other one would have to be the Haunted Mansion Holiday Nightmare, which is our version of the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay on Haunted Mansion. So that only happens for Halloween and Christmas. So that's one thing I always have to ride.
Does that go right through from Halloween to Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then over at Disney Sea, my absolute favorite would have to be Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is the attraction that's inside Mount Prometheus. And that attraction is fun. I love it. That's one of the rides I always have to ride when I go there.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot about it, actually, that ride. I believe that was in the original concept for Disneyland Paris. And
really?
Because you've been there, so you've seen Space Mountain. But Space Mountain was supposed to be part of a much bigger complex. And that was, I believe, or at least parts of that ride were going to be used inside that as well as a different attraction. But for financial reasons, it never got built. And in the end, they had enough budget just to make the Space Mountain attraction. So that's what they went with. But what's the ride like, for those that don't know?
It's kind of a mixture between a ride through, where there's kind of a story kind of happening, and then mixed with a thrill ride. So that I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it. And it's inside Mount Prometheus, and I don't want to ruin it for too many people, but the ride through is really nice. Like, it kind of makes you feel like you're in the center of the earth, seeing all these weird creatures and stuff like that. And then at the end, there's a kind of a thrill ride aspect to it, which is kind of unexpected if you don't know anything about the ride. But for me, like my favorite part is actually the queue to get to the attraction. So it's obviously inside Mount Prometheus, and it's really well themed. Like, you feel like you're actually in a volcano. Not that I've been in a real volcano, so I have no idea how true it is. But it's very steampunk-esque. Like, there's artifacts in there from the adventurers that have gone, to the center of the earth. And then when you get up to one of the ends of the queue, you go into this elevator, and the elevator simulates going deep down into the earth, which is really cool. And then you come out of the elevator, then there's another queue, and again, there's more theming and stuff, and it almost looks like a mine, which is really neat.
Mm-hmm. So that
it's fun.
Sounds good. So that steampunk, that would fit, wouldn't it, Nick, with Disneyland Paris?
Yeah.
That's kind of what they went for with Space Mountain there.
Yeah. It's underrated. I do like that land, actually. But what was I kind of interrupted there on my excitement for the Journey to the Centre of the Earth. What was the other attraction you were going to talk about?
The other one was Sinbad's Storybook Adventure, which is often overlooked by a lot of people. And this one's in the Arabian coast, which is themed after Aladdin. And it's a boat ride, and it's just the story of Sinbad. And A lot of people kind of overlook it because it looks like, oh, it's just another boat ride. Yeah, it is another boat ride, but it's a really, really well done boat ride. Like the music is incredibly catchy, and all the animatronics they do in it are phenomenal. And it's actually quite long. Like I'd have to say I don't even know, probably about 15 to 20 minutes long. Like it's a rather long attraction.
Oh, that's long, yeah. Yeah,
it's
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Chris.
I was gonna say it's a nice place to kind of rest, to get out of the crowds or the heat or the cold, which is really nice.
So a bit like a Hall of Presidents, but on water.
Yeah. But better, in my opinion.
But better, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking Carousel of Progress actually when you talk about the length of it, but yeah, I don't even think Carousel of Progress is. I mean, it feels that long. It does feel that long, but I don't think it is that long. I mean, Tokyo DisneySea just sounds like such an unusual park because, granted, you've only talked about your two favourite attractions, that chocolate lager's kicking in, but they don't really have any, or don't appear to have, from what you just said, any kind of Disney theme. I know there's a Toy Story section there, but is there not much Disney theming in Tokyo DisneySea?
There is, but it's very subtle. I guess probably the best way to put it. Like it's, giving the Arabian Coast as an example. It's like that section is beautiful, and it looks like it's right out of Aladdin, like just with all the theming and everything. And if you didn't know Aladdin, it'd be kind of hard to kind of tell like that it was from Aladdin, I guess. But if you kind of take a closer look, you can kind of see aspects of Aladdin in it. So there's like the two-story carousel that we have. If you take a look at that, you can tell like there's some Aladdin stuff in there. And also in some of the theming, there will be like signs that say something about the Sultan, or there's stuff about Jasmine and stuff like that. So the Disney theme is very subtle, so you kind of have to look for it, I guess is the best way to put it. Except for the Mermaid Lagoon, which is all Little Mermaid, and it's kind of obvious that it is that.
Yeah. And so, if you were coming to Tokyo to see the parks, how much time would you need to allow to see both parks and do them justice?
I would say 4 days, and just because that's the max that you can buy for a ticket for is a 4-day passport. Yeah. So if you want to get the most out of it, I think 4 days would be more than enough. You can do it in 3 if you really want to push it. 2, I would say that's not enough time, mainly because when you buy a 3 or 4 day park ticket, your first 2 days you have to choose one park to go to for that day, and then the third and fourth day are park hopper days. So if you go for only 2 days, you can only go to one park per day. You can't go between them, unless you're staying at one of the Disney hotels, one of the 3. Those guests can buy a park hopper ticket for the first day, but it obviously costs a little bit more. And I tell people it's not really worth it, especially if it's your first time, because you can easily spend one full day at each park.
Sure.
And if you're trying to park hop on the first day, you're going to be stressed out of your mind. So yeah, I would say about 4 days is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah, and obviously Japan's an expensive country, but the hotels in the resort, are they pitched at different levels? Do you have like a deluxe, a medium, a moderate? How do they work pricing wise?
All the Disney hotels, because like there's only 3 right now. I say they're all deluxe.
Right.
Like the cheapest one is the Disney Ambassador, and that's starting at I don't know what currency to say this in. I'm gonna say it's about $350 US starting. Okay. Roughly, and it just goes up from there. And then The middle range one, I guess, would be the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, which is starting around $400 a night. And then going to the Hotel Miracosta, which is right in Disney Sea. The cheapest you can probably find is about $450 a night. So they're not cheap.
Wow.
And that's not including park tickets. That's just room or
just the room. That's it.
Just the room. Okay.
But there are official hotels on the resort, and they're right on the monorail loop, which is really nice and convenient. And those are a lot cheaper, but obviously they're not Disney themed.
Yeah.
But if you're being price conscious, they're a really nice alternative because they're right on the resort, and they have like a bus that goes to the monorail. And a lot of people usually stay at the Tokyo Hilton, which has a lot of deals a lot of the time. Like sometimes they'll have 50% off deals. So you can get a room for just under $100 a night.
Oh, that's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
And then there's also the Sheraton Hotel, which is also another one that a lot of people stay at. And then there's a couple other ones, but I don't know too much about those ones.
Also, go on, Paul.
No, go Nick.
No, I was just going to say, this is something we talked about on the show before, and there was an attraction that never got built. It was my favourite unmade Disney attraction called Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers. Have you ever heard of that, Chris?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. Well, but I mean, to cut a long story short, it was going to be based on the film. It was envisioned for MGM, as it was then known, and you were going to drive around on cars shooting at gangsters. So you can probably understand, if you're thinking about that, why it never really took off as an idea. But the American waterfront part of Tokyo Disney Sea, the streets that are underneath the tramway there are actually taken from the design concept of that attraction.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
So it's one of those rare instances where it was that fine to development that they actually had people fly over from Tokyo Disney at the time to do the ride trial as it was to demonstrate how it would work. And although the ride never took off, the plans were available, and they liked that idea, and so it was incorporated into Tokyo Disney Sea.
Huh.
So there you go. Every day's a school day, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a little piece of trivia I can put in my back pocket now.
That's right.
Now the competition recently opened a new Harry Potter attraction in Japan. Yeah, have you been to that park, Chris? Have you been to Universal?
Not recently. Like I went like once 10 years ago. I haven't been back since. I've been meaning to go. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
We won't ask too many questions about that.
No.
Next.
Save that for Lee.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that. I mean, I would want to go if I managed to get over to Tokyo. I would have to go just because they've still got Jaws, and I do miss Jaws.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, Chris, I mean, I think it's because I know how early it is over there, and it is coming up to the end of the show. So, thank you very much for coming on. I think it's been really great to talk to someone that's out in Tokyo, and anybody that's got any interest at all in the show. Can you just remind us where they can find you?
If you want to listen to our podcast, TDR Now, you can just search for us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher. And then for everything else, Tokyo Disney Resorts, you can find us on our website at TDRExplorer.com. And then we're also on Twitter at TDR Explorer, and also on Facebook, facebook.com/TDR Explorer.
And honestly, anyone that's got any interest at all in the parks and actually likes to listen to a podcast where you listen to hosts talk about something truthfully and without making too many jokes about things that aren't actually true,
who would do that?
For you. Well,
who would do a thing like that?
DisneyBrit, obviously. or the Unofficial Universal. Well, indeed, they are. And of course, if you want to get hold of us for any reason at all, Adam good year probably to complain. But our last joke, you can visit our website at www.DisAfterDark.com, or you can email us at podcast@DisAfterDark.com.
And we're on Twitter at DisAfterDark, Facebook.com/DisAfterDark, Instagram, Pinterest, and other stuff.
And I think just before we go, I think it would be, we've kind of gone the whole show without talking about it because it is a bit of a Debbie Downer, but, our thoughts to anyone that's been affected by the recent instances in Paris happened over the last few days. Respectfully, I think Disneyland Paris are actually closed until, I believe it's the 17th. Mm-hmm. Well, I think they're reopening on the 18th of November. Yeah. Due to the national mourning. And I mean, really, as much as everyone wants to kind of get back on track and everything like that, I think, a theme park probably isn't the most fun thing to do when that stuff's going on around you. Mm. So apparently they've been doing a really good job with trying to keep guests entertained that are already on property, providing free food and doing meets and greets around all the hotels with lots of characters to try and keep people's spirits up. But I think they've been quite sensible under the given circumstances. And like I say, our thoughts with those people that have been affected. And I think once we've had a few days mourning, let's get back on the horse and carry on. I think the good thing about Disney is it is a magical place, and we'll be able to pick people's spirits up once they're ready to do so. So, But on that downer note, we'll call it a night. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Especially
thank you for having me.
Such an early part of your day. Yeah. And we will catch up with you all in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, great. Take it easy.
Cue the music, cue the lights. And
fill in.
We're out. Yes, nice. That's it. We're still recording, but we're not recording. So, Chris, thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah,
thank you for having me. It was fun.
No, really fun talking to you. I mean, I doubt we'd be any good for your show, but if you ever do want to speak to some English people, there's 4 of us here that would be happy to return the favour. Yeah. And if you ever want to come back, if there's anything you want to promote or anything you want to talk about, we'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, if you guys ever want anything from me, just let me know. And Patricia says sorry for not making it. It's just she has to get her son ready for school and everything, and it's a little too early for her.
Yeah, no, understandable. But it's to say that we said hello.
Yeah, and Patricia's welcome on anytime she likes also. Yeah. And
really, really great show that you do there, guys.
Yeah.
So I meant what I said. Very good podcast, and I've discovered there is one, and you've certainly got a subscriber there.
Yeah, me too. I started with episode 1.
Oh, wow.
I didn't go to the latest one. I started at the beginning, and I'm working forward. And it is definitely Tokyo is on our list. So sometime.
Yeah, you guys definitely have to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
the beers are on us when we do. The sake's on you though.
Deal. Yeah, it's definitely a different world over here, and like with this whole TDR Explorer thing, I just kind of fell into it. I never started it intending it to be what it is today. Yeah. I just started doing it because I'm like, no one's really doing it, and I go a lot, so why not?
Yeah.
Started doing it, and then people started catching on. I thought, oh shit, I should maybe actually do something with this.
That's great. It's good.
Yeah. No, thank you very much.
It's been fun.
And,
I've been listening to your guys' podcast here and there as well. It's entertaining. I like it.
That's very kind of you. Yeah, that's all we can do, really. But again, thank you very much for giving up this part of your day. Hope the rest of your day goes okay. Yeah. And we'll certainly be in touch. We'll let you know when the show goes out as well, just in case you want to let people know.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Have a good night.
Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional.
Bye.
Dis After Dark, the podcast that's nearly the same as all the others.